Okay, exercise 3-5. We're going to do these together. We're going to do parts 1 and 2 together because it's one continuous activity, so it's kind of silly to just arbitrarily break it. So let's go through. The first thing that we need to do is we bought some equipment or some materials. So we bought $75,000 of raw materials for cash. So we're going to credit cash, $75,000, debit raw materials, $75,000. The next thing it tells us is that $73,000 were requisitioned for use in production. 67 was for direct materials. Okay, so we're going to credit raw materials for $73,000. Of that $73,000, $67,000 goes to work in process. And the remaining $6,000, 67 from 73, goes to overhead. Okay? And let me just highlight that so you can see where I'm spending my money. Okay? We'll highlight these, see if we can make this pretty and colorful and understandable. Okay, the next thing it tells us is total labor wages of $152,000 were incurred and paid. $134,000 was for direct labor, and the remainder was for indirect labor. Well, we know the cash part. We spent $152,000. And of that $152,000, we're told that $134,000 was direct labor, so that goes to work in process. It's not an expense, it's an asset. And the remaining 18, 152 subtract 134, goes to overhead. Oh, and we'll make those orange, as in, aren't you glad I have all these color markers? Okay, the next thing it tells us is additional manufacturing overhead cost of $126,000 were incurred and paid. Again, let's credit our cash because we're told that. $126,000 incurred and paid. And we're told that that all goes to overhead, $126,000. And we'll make that, oh, I don't know, blue, as in sometimes overhead can make you feel blue. Yeah, I know. I'm going to go back to the orange one. It's easier to make orange jokes. Manufacturing overhead cost of $178,000 were applied to the jobs using the predetermined overhead rate. So we're applying $178,000 to the work in process. And that's transaction E. Oh, and geez, I'm running out of colors. Well, we'll go to yellow. Okay, now they tell us all of the jobs in progress at the end of the month were completed and shipped to customers. So what they're telling us is that everything in here was shipped. So we need to add that up, and when we add that up, we find that that comes to $379,000. We need to take it from here and put it to finished goods. Okay? So this is $379. That's what that totals to. We now have told that we're shipping that, that's finished and shipped to customers. So that's transaction F, that all the goods were finished and shipped. And these goods were shipped to customers. We're told that. So that comes right back out of finished goods and comes down to cost of goods sold. So that's actually all one continuous transaction. That's all transaction F. Now, the last thing it says, any over or under applied overhead is closed to cost of goods sold. What they're telling you is they're not telling you is that you have to see how much is in the overhead if we have too little or too much. Well, if we add up this side, we come up with 150,000. This side gives us 178,000. In other words, what we did is we said we had more costs than we did. We over applied the overhead. We applied $178,000 of cost. We only had 150. So we need to close that. We need to make that go to zero. So 28,000, and this is transaction G, there, and 28,000 over here, okay? So yes, we're actually crediting the cost of goods sold. We're making the cost of goods sold go down, and the finished cost of goods for this period was $351,000. That's the final answer. That's the answer that we needed to come up with. But you had to go through and do all of this to come up with that 28. That is right there. And that's the piece that you had to compute and see.